When it comes to buying a home, you do not have much time to poke around, and often find unpleasant surprises left by previous owners after they leave. Sometimes, however, these surprises may turn out to be an unexpected way to add value to your home. That's exactly what happened to this man when he came across something incredible that was hiding underground in his garden. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose and share this video with your friends. As a new homeowner, he was curious to fully understanding his house's structure and requested for the original plans of the house. We are sure he wasn't expecting to find anything big or even unusual, but as the story goes, he found both. The blueprints showed an ordinary family home with quite an unordinary addition. Inside his backyard, a large circle had been marked with strange measurements. That was enough to pique this man's curiosity, and he started to immediately take some drastic steps to uncover this bizarre mystery. Our guess is that he was excited to discover what was hidden in the far end of his garden. Maybe it was a hidden treasure buried right there under his feet. He knew something incredible was going to be found. The search for the perfectly round buried hole started with the man hiring a metal detector specialist to search his garden. The expert scored 2 crosses for likely places where this strange surprise could be located. Like most people put in this unusual situation, the man had his suspicions about what could be buried in his garden. We are sure his mind might have thought that he'd just about to uncover a treasure trove. His dreams were slightly dampened when the metal detector specialist chimed in and said that perhaps it was a time capsule dating back several years and not some precious loot. Either way, he was very intrigued. Starting from the marked areas, the digging began. It was slow work since they had to take their time to ensure not to damage whatever they were just about to unearth. Was it an old military weapon? Was it a tunnel? Well, they were about to get the answers to all these questions very soon. Through the layers of dark-caked mud and a few worms or two, the digging team spotted the round object taking its shape. It was distinctively metal, yet could have been anything from a local sewer cover to a secret hatch. So the digging went on, and soon the man realized that the round object was really a metal cover for something big. This little project was getting stranger and stranger by the minute. The heavy lid was jammed in place and made it impossible for them to uncover what it was actually trying to hide. The lid was rusted, yet sturdy, and he knew he needed a helping hand or two to nudge it out of place and reveal what was underneath. At this point, he was quite the talk of the neighborhood, and many people came to assist him in his mystery project. With everyone's help, the old rusted lid was finally pulled up inch by inch, with everyone being ever so careful as to not disturb whatever the cover was protecting. We are sure everyone at that point truly thought that they were revealing some hidden treasure. Well, all their hopes and dreams of being instantly rich were quenched when all the cover revealed was an assortment of unrelated objects. It seemed that there were rusted blades protected with a concrete tunnel, more akin to an old industrial fan than rubies and gems. This discovery led many to instantly lose their interest in his excavation project, yet the man persevering. Even if the object was an old fan, what was it doing in the middle of a suburban neighborhood, and that too buried in the ground? Now, even alone, he continued to dig away the years of dirt from this structure. His plan was simple: remove as much mud from inside and around the cover and crawl his way down the hole. It was a brave plan, and he was a brave man, we have to note. Fortunately, once the lid was removed, there wasn't a lot of soil that prevented him from entering the hole under the lid. Slowly and cautiously, he removed the dirt and realized that this was no fan buried in his yard, and those were not blades either. The rusted metal were actually steps supported by a beam in the middle, which led to a secret hidden tunnel. At that point, we would have that he would have contacted the authorities and allowed them to unveil where the stairs led to, but instead, his impatience and intrigue took over, and he climbed down the tunnel, alone and unprepared. At first glance, the underground structure which opened up in front of him seemed complex and unfamiliar, and the man immediately reconsidered his choice of venturing into this unknown structure alone. The smart move was to retreat, and that is what he did. Once, back at the surface, he knew that he needed to learn more about his structure, and that he did. Going back to the public records office, he searched and scoured the blueprints and finally found the answers he was looking for. The plans showed that this eerie structure was not some sort of hidden tunnel used by the government or even storage for treasure, but a simple bomb shelter, probably created by some paranoid previous house owners. The shelter was musty and carried a feeling of dread for the man, feeling that there was more to it all. Why had the shelter not been taken care of? And why hadn't anyone but him noticed its existence? Despite his initial discomfort, he had to note that the bomb shelter was state-of-the-art for its time. It had various life-saving structural properties, including an electric and hand crank fan which allowed for this buried fortress to always have access to ventilated air. It was a very clever plan, and once the dust settled and the structure was fully cleaned, it hit the man that he had an ancient bomb shelter in his garden. With the mystery solved, it was time for Act 2 of his master plan. He decided that it could help remove the rubble from the shelter and the stairs. The man wanted to make sure the place was secure, and to do it properly, he would have to get rid of all the debris. He wanted to see what else he could find in the rubble. Were there any antique gadgets hiding in there? Once clean, he thought this could be his perfect personal home if he renovated and restored it, and wondered what would it look like. After years of neglect, it was obvious to see that this place needed a lot of work, and to begin it all, he started by opening up the one and only access area to the bunker, aka the spiral staircase. So, he set to work putting the debris inside buckets and hauling them outside to throw them away. The time-consuming process was one which was essential, backbreaking yet completely worth it. After many hours of exhausting work, the rubble was finally cleared away and removed from the shelter. He was now able to go back up to better see the entrance and determine what would be the next step in securing the structure. It was obvious to him that, for lack of a better word, the entire thing was relatively ugly and needed to be brought straight to the modern times if he wanted to be able to use it regularly and with ease. Looks aside, the crumbling structure needed some repair work, with much of the concrete eroding. He again asked his friends and family for a lending hand, and they started by reinforcing the roof, opening, and stairs of this bomb shelter. This support would not only help him improve the look of the place, but it was also necessary to ensure that his future refuge-to-be didn't accidentally collapse on him while he was inside. The group decided to excavate around the opening and tried to strengthen it. While at it, they also took the time to rebuild the entrance of the shelter, which added another layer of safety to the structure. While working, they added a little more concrete to start things off, while being extremely careful not to damage the crumbling structure. This took days upon days, yet becomes somewhat of a bonding moment for the man and his friends. The site was in such a state of disrepair after years of neglect that it was clear that the men certainly had a lot of work ahead of them. Although it took them some time for things to progress, maybe the reward would ultimately be worth it. This was an unusual project. We mean it's not daily that you ask your friends to help you build, or at least improve, a dated bomb shelter. Teamwork led the way, and they ended up having a good time. Day to dig holes. The group did their best to reinforce the entrance from the top of the shelter so that it is well secured and there is no landslide possible thereafter. Once space around it was cleared, they pushed the rebar firmly into place. These would help the future supports of the entrance and added the finishing touch to the renovation of this bomb shelter. The finish line was so close, and what once was a mysterious fan was turning into something completely different. This turned out to be an extremely long and tedious process for his group of friends. However, they were extremely excited to be able to spend their time on this intriguing new project that could lead to an incredible discovery. And once heck of a good story. We are sure the homeowner not only appreciated all that work and effort put into his little project by his close friends, but also cherished the entire process from its uncertain start to near completion. When they finished pouring the concrete initially and fixing the rebar, it was time to finally add concrete forms to the outside of the shelter. You can see that they started this process by building a wooden structure. As the last stages of the bomb shelter were edging ever so close, an air of excitement circulated around the house. They had taken an old, forgotten structure and turned it into something of a centerpiece for this man's home. Producing and pouring concrete was a necessary part of this project. However, this turned out to be the longest and most arduous part of rebuilding the entrance to the shelter in the man's garden. But they were not worried. They had a big team to support them, and they were so excited about the project. And that meant that no matter what they found, Nothing could stop them from completing this project. The next step that the men followed was to apply a sonotube carton. This would provide a type of temporary protection inside the shelter entrance and would not damage what was inside. While renovating, everyone was extremely cautious as to not damage any of the original piping, metalwork, and structure, since all of it was historical and made the bomb shelter unique. Now it was time to add a conduit for electricity and other utilities. No modern bomb shelter would be complete without some basic utilities, just in case they needed to be there for a while. We are quite envious of this new underground space these friends had created, which will soon become their go-to-hangout space. Imagine watching a movie, nestled underneath the ground while enjoying a cold beer. As most of the project, it was again slow work. The top concrete slabs formed gradually and needed painstaking precious, but they could finally see the whole project start to take a definite form. However, it was far from the end. There was still more work to be done, so rather than celebrating their achievements, they went back to work. Following the entire story of this project, we are quite impressed with the loyalty and work ethic of this man and his group of friends. This whole project was started at the start of summer, and as they were nearing completion, it was practically boiling. It got so hot that they had to cover the work area with a tent to shelter it. Not a bad way to make sure they stayed away from the sun while working in this scorching heat. We are sure anyone working inside the bomb shelter was grateful for the respite from the heat while everyone above melted away. The basic idea behind the renovation of this bomb shelter was to make it a centerpiece in the garden rather than have it hidden away. The project was going well so far, but these guys still had some way to go. Progress was proceeding very slowly, but they were determined to make this shelter return to its former glory, and nothing was going to stop them. We are sure the friends who are lovers of rock music had many a session of Don't Stop Me No by Queen while working on this colossal renovation project. After weeks and weeks of work, things were getting serious. It was time to expose the concrete. Anyone who has already had the pleasure of presenting concrete knows that it is rarely a simple process. Fortunately, this also meant that the group was finally approaching the last stages. The end was near, and they could feel it, and with the concert setting, they began to celebrate how far they had come. Finishing the project, they put the rebar on the foundation for extra support, a must in any underground anything. If you want to live and dig in a basement, it is always good to make sure that everything is well supported so as not to have bad surprises afterward, aka the whole thing caving in. While they didn't have any specific plans as to what the shelter's entrance looked like when it was first made, looking at the pictures, we are assuming that whatever this DIY builders achieved had to better than the original. With each passing day, it looked more and more completed. This was almost a finalized product, but as you can see in the picture, there was still work and a lot of drying still left to be done. Either way, they were proud of what they had done. To be honest, taking a look at their progress, so are we. We wonder where this man found such devoted, helpful, and loving friends who went above and beyond for his side project. The men finally managed to remove the supporting plates from the top of the entrance, and it was starting to take shape. The entire thing was completely unrecognizable from what it was used to be to what it had become. It's crazy to think that before that, he did not even know there was anything there, and now with some major elbow grease, a good soundtrack, and helpful friends, they had created this incredible structure. The men paused, marveling at the state of their work and reminiscing about the days of its discovery. Not so long ago, it was a forgotten old bomb shelter, and now it was almost completely renovated, all thanks to them. The team had only focused on improving the structure of the bomb shelter and had left furnishing the place to their friend. It was his bomb shelter to begin with, but their work was finally done. After days of drying, the concrete was finally laid. It was time to go down to take a look inside and marvel at their work. The entrance still looked a little ominous, but at least they were sure that the structure was secure. Once all the building tools were removed and given a good few sweeps, the structure was open for guests. Most couldn't believe that it was the same old shelter with its crumbling floors and debris, while right now, the opening to the shelter is exposed. In the future, they plan on covering the entire thing with another cover and laying new grass on top. So, to the naked eye, all you would ever see will be a simple, tiny black pipe. They were so proud of what they had built, and they were so amazed at how well it had gone. This incredible discovery was only waiting to be found, and we are so happy that they did it. Now, completed the structure welcomed everyone to climb down the stairs and explore inside of it. Even the friends who had been working on the thing for weeks felt a little nervous and jittery. As you can see from the picture, the original rusted steps were kept in place. There was much debate as to if they should keep the unusable stairs for nostalgia purpose or replace them with something newer and practical. The discussion was kept on hold since no one either wanted the extra work of removing the stairs. Instead, they added a temporary ladder to the opening to allow for friends to easily get in and out of the shelter. While quite an eyesore, it was necessary to add it since the rusted original stairs could be trusted to support the weight of one person, let alone a group of them hopping in and out with their heavy machinery. While the basics of the structure was completed, the homeowner, aka founder of the bomb shelter, noticed that the fiberglass on the ceiling was starting to come off. It meant that there was going to be more work than there would otherwise have been. This was quite an unsafe task since fiberglass is dangerous when it comes in contact with bare skin, and it can affect your lungs, so you need to fix it as soon as possible. It would not be an easy process. Right now, the friends have agreed to work little by little on this bomb shelter and plan on tackling the fiberglass next. You can see that, apart from some slight paint issues and debris, the structure is otherwise sound and quite big. Once the fiberglass is removed, plans are to carpet or tile the entire place and turn this bomb shelter an oasis to these hard-working friends. We bet this will also soon become a favorite spot for kids and teenagers.